building a coaching business from scratch has been very hard. 2 years later, somebody said, I'll pay you. In this card chit chat, I want to talk about how building a coaching business from scratch has been very hard. It's been fun, it's been rewarding, but I don't want to minimize that it has been hard. And the reason this is coming up for me right now is because I've had the opportunity to talk to a variety of different therapists over the last couple of years. I have coached a good amount of therapists in terms of them building out also digital products in their coaching business beyond the one-on-one therapy model. And recently, I've been interviewing a good amount of people for our Elite Therapist Coaching Mastermind. And majority of therapists, which really shocked me, but it wasn't surprising, I guess, depending on how you see what's happening in our industry in terms of therapists desiring to, honestly, a lot of them move away from general mental health services, especially one-on-one, is that a lot of them want to go over into coaching, doing trainings, doing workshops, and really fully at some point removing one-on-one altogether, which means that there are not a lot of therapists, at least that have come across my computer, that are more interested in group practice, because group practice is basically an expansion of what you're doing one-on-one. And yes, you may at some point be able to, that's the goal, decrease your hours and your team work more and you pretty much help run the back office systems. It still feels like you're low-key conducting mental health because you're overseeing the process. With that said, I wanted to pull back the curtain a little bit more and talk about the beginning stages of coaching. And I don't want it to be perceived as I'm telling you it's going to be extra hard for you. But I find that it's very interesting that when I talk to therapists, some of them are choosing to continue to prolong a negative state of being in terms of their business being plateaued, their business not taking off, their business not growing, better yet, their business not being able to scale beyond where it is, meaning they're working less while earning more because they want to do it alone, you know? And so I want to take you all the way back to, I'm going to say around and about 2012, 2013. So at that time, I was still a full-time employee of a government agency. I was working in juvenile justice in different sites from, aftercare, which is when the kids come out. I've worked in juvenile hall. I've worked in juvenile camp, did some overtime at the men's central jail. But I was teaching at like different colleges and stuff, but I really wanted to tap clearly into private practice first. So I got into my own private practice officially July of 2012. And shortly after, only because I had started honestly working on my private practice way before then. I mean, y'all, I had bought a private practice book in my first year of my doctoral program, but that's also, disclaimer, because I was already in a master's program. So sometimes people in my doctoral program are like, dang, she's so ahead. And it's like, but I already have been in grad school, for 2 years. And I didn't choose to do the PsyD first because I didn't know if I wanted a doctorate degree. So nevertheless, I had purchased a book and I had just saw the framework of a basic private practice, like, hey, you got to get your prognosis in order. It was basic paperwork stuff that you should have in order, but it wasn't really showing us how to build the business. But it was a good starter. Like, I didn't know what I didn't know. Fast forward, when it was time for me to start the private practice, I hit the ground running primarily because I was, to me, really good at paperwork and structure and organizing things. I mean, this is what I did for a living at the job as a quality assurance person. I was helping building programs like from my past practicum site when they hired me back when I graduated, when the market crashed when I graduated. I don't know how many of y'all know that, but I graduated with my doctorate degree in 2009. I got my degree posted in June. I walked the stage in September, but the market had crashed. And, it was very difficult to find a job that can also give me my hours. And so I basically had to move back from LA, back up north where I had originally moved from the Bay to LA, like to come back home for my postdoc internship, and then I couldn't get a job. So I ended up working at a high school up there that I used to work at and get my practicum hours, and I built a whole case management and then referral into a mental health program from scratch. Built out an after school program with someone else. We both built it from scratch, right? So this is what I do. but I don't realize that I'm sitting on a pot of gold. I just know what I'm good at and what I like to do, and that it's weird that other people at that time didn't like to do it. Now it's normal for me to see that people don't like quality assurance. It is what it is. So moving forward, I started, just having conversations with other therapists, conversations like, oh, what do you do on the weekend? Whatever. And I'm like, oh, I teach, after work or whatever. And, we just get to know each other. And then because people started to realize that every time they would talk to me, I'll be like, oh yeah, I got a new client for my private practice. Oh yeah, I got a new client for my private practice. Oh, my private practice is full based on my capacity doing it part-time. I work now. I was grinding, y'all. I'm working Friday and Saturday, every other Thursday, because that was my schedule in the jail. They were like, how did you get all these clients? How are you running a private practice? Tell me how you got your office, all these things. So I'm just like talking, like I'm talking now. And all of a sudden, some people started to ask, hey, can you teach me? Now, I didn't really understand what that meant, right? And if you talk to a lot of coaches, that's how a lot of us started, is that we were just willing to share, like I'm doing right now, knowledge, wisdom. Money didn't come first. It was just like, oh, this is fun because I know something. You know what I'm saying? And so I started talking, and I'm not saying that somebody went out and built out a whole full private practice, but it led to just more and more people spreading my name around as what we now know as organic traffic, word of mouth, referrals. And then probably 2 years later, somebody said, I'll pay you. How much does it cost for you to coach me? She said the words. And I need to leave my job in 30 days. And we talked about how realistic that is. But I mean, she left. I coached her butt, and she left that job. Now, what happened in the in-between is the story I want to share, because y'all may be like, okay, well, 2 years, you still had your 6-figure job. Like, then you left the job, and then you had all your clients, if you listen to any of my other podcasts. So what's this 2-year gap? It don't sound hard. That's what a lot of people, they see the outside like it don't sound hard. So I'm like, okay, what y'all don't see is before I even launched my official, I'm going to go backward. Before I launch what we now know, some of you, as the Dope Therapist Academy private practice program, I was doing before that one-on-one coaching, and it wasn't all about private practice. It was on whichever area that I knew I was really good at, and I would teach the therapist how to do that. So the 2 areas that I primarily focused on was private practice and program development. The program development can be in the community, it can be in your church, it can be in your private practice, but that's what I'm really good at, and building therapeutic groups and how to market it. Now what I know as the launch model. So again, I was doing a lot of this stuff naturally. And then when I started reading and listening to podcasts and watching YouTube videos and joining coaching programs and courses, that's when I realized that there were names to what I was already doing, but it helped me formulate like a better process, right? And I feel like that's what happened, honestly, with me going to school to be a psychologist, is that a lot of the theoretical orientations that they were talking about, I'm like, oh, I do this, I say this, I've done that before multiple times. That's just the way I talk. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this is this form of CBT. That's what, okay. So I know a lot of therapists, feel that way. I'm not the only one who feels like when you walked into grad school, it's like, oh, I've been doing this for years, but it got a name to it. You feel good about that. So before the one-on-one coaching containers, though, I had a lot of Instagram lives, Facebook lives, just really featuring my expertise as a mental health provider. And then eventually, as I started to get more confident over time, which took years of me believing that somebody can pay me so that I can coach them with how to, I'm gonna say coach and teach, because those are 2 different methodologies, but how I can coach and teach them how to, for example, open up a thriving group practice, not group practice at the time, but solo practice. I need to put some systems together. So what started to happen is, and I want y'all to hear this, execution tells you where to go next. Execution tells you where to go next. So because I was having conversations with people, and it's not like I was unable to answer their questions, but more so it made me start thinking about, I want to formalize this. I want to conceptualize this better so that I can explain it in a 4 to 5 step process, which is what we now know as framework. I started looking for a teacher. That's what I mean when I talk about marketing, is the green lighters. The green lighters are very aware of what they need in their business or whatever they need to work on. And now they're just going to find the perfect match, right? So I started as a green lighter looking for webinars, opportunities. I'm tired of reading books at this point, so that someone with their system, and I didn't really at that time care about if it was one-on-one or group. I've never honestly been, and ain't nothing wrong with this, but I've never been the type that said I need to have the one-on-one coach. The only time that I've made that decision is when I was in a mastermind after 5 years, and I said, I actually no longer need the group. I just need one VIP session all year. Like, I'm gravy, you feel me? But remember, this is after 5 years of being in one mastermind. I was in a mastermind before that for 4 years. Then I was in courses and coaching for years. Okay. So some people come out the gate saying they want one-on-one coaching, but my question always is, are you very clear about what you want? And you may need help with the execution steps, which is what the coaching is for. But are you in a state of lack of confidence? Because unless you're going to a confidence coach, if you're going to an online business systems coach to help you launch, you need to be clear about what we helping you launch, or you're going to waste your money and you're going to waste your time and our time, right? So I didn't come to a one-on-one conclusion until I buckled down, did a few launches, a lot of launches, and realized like I want to double down on this particular product right here. And then if I need another VIP day, I'll just pay for it. VIP days ain't cheap. We talking about $10,000. You know what I'm saying? To sit in front of somebody who makes 10 million. Because if I'm going to spend time and to sit down with somebody, I'm going to make for sure that they have been way more successful than I have. Okay. And they got the receipts to show it. Okay. And so nevertheless, let me just plug in some other things that some people may not know. So before me launching DTA, I had a lot of first phone calls. So this was before I was even doing webinars. I was doing phone calls, and in my course that I was in, I was taught a script, a sales script of how to pretty much bring in my framework into the conversation and to also make sure that the person is a good match. And I was hand selecting people to become my clients. Well, that was helpful. I don't regret it because it taught me a lot about the mindset and objections of what people or therapists may say in relation to getting help. So I'm not going to say it was a waste of my time, but was it a blow to like my ego? Like, dang, why is it so hard? It's hella easy at this point to get a therapy client. And that's when I realized like, oh wait, I'm not doing therapy. And then you want to think about it like this. How long did it take you to even feel confident with even your pricing in therapy if you charge private pay? Or if you have a job, how confident do you feel to ask for that particular rate if that's what you had done in the past, right? So some of us don't come out the gate, blazing with like, we worth $250 an hour or $150 an hour, we worth $175 a year. Like, we don't come out like that. We like, man, just give me my hours and my experience. And then over time, you realize how good you are based off of performance evaluations, people telling you such, you graduating people from treatment and things like that, right? And so I did well over like 30 phone calls, well over. And I would get some of the same objections, which is, and this is why I know these by heart now for my launches, is like, oh, I got to talk to my husband. Okay, that's fine. I respect that because any marital unit, because I wrote a book on communication with marital couples, like that makes sense. And so that just means that as from the sales perspective, I need to follow up with them within 3 days, not 5 weeks, 3 days. You feel me? Like if we meet on Friday, I'll talk to you on Monday, right? So now I've learned later that I just like a sales tactic is, or a sales strategy is, you don't want to let so much time go by between somebody being green and then you talking to them next, because then they sit in idle time and people, human beings, start to create reasons as to why they shouldn't take your services versus why they should. It's really an interesting process, right? So, I would get that. I would get, it's not the right time. So another challenge to the objection that I've learned over time is, well, can you tell me when is it the right time? And I find it very interesting to this day that when I ask people that question, they can't tell me, which really tells me that maybe they're sitting in a state of fear and not actually in a state of indecisiveness. They're just scared to maybe bet on themselves, because I've shown my receipts. So it ain't about betting on me. I really believe some people believe that they're not going to follow through. Well, that's not on me. And to be honest, if that's the case and you've sat on it and you don't want to go all in, then you're not the right fit for my programs, because I also don't want you to come back later saying the program ain't working simply because you didn't work it, right? So I've heard them all the time. I've heard money is a real thing, right? But I also know that people make room for what they want. So it always tickles me if someone says, and I don't know people's pockets, I don't know how people pay for stuff, but it is tickling, because everything is on social media. If individuals are saying, they don't have, but then I see that they found room to have, if you get me, you read between the lines, right? And so I don't get in their DM and be like, oh, you said, like, that would be inappropriate. I just sit back and be like, all right. But what's fascinating to me is some of those people come back later, so it's all about, in the coaching business, you need to be patient. And I'm sharing the Instagram and social media story because even though yes, that's what I see, that's what you're going to see as well if you start building a community and following your people and they're following you. It's naturally going to happen if you're scrolling, right? But I'm also sharing with you that as a business coach, or for someone who's building a coaching business on any area, you can't take stuff personal when someone gives you a no. I learned this early on doing multi-level marketing for health and nutrition. One of these guys said, TK, you're gonna get 9 no's before you get the 1 yes. And if you can wait to that 1 yes, you're fine, because then over time, you're gonna get better and better. And you don't have to wait the 9. The next one is gonna be 8. The next one is gonna be 7. But I want you to count how many no's you got in the in-between. And are you gonna look at them as a setback? I mean, this is not what he said, but it's how I interpreted it. Am I gonna look at it as a setback? Or am I gonna look at it as a process of the journey to become great? Because technically, if you think about everything I just told you, with even people saying no and the reason why, it gives me objections to talk about with the clients on a webinar, on a Zoom call, before they can even say it. Like, if I know somebody's married, I'm gonna be like, okay, do you need to talk to your husband about this? Or we can put it on the application. Is there anyone else who would be involved in your financial decisions to move forward in your coaching business? Like, that may be something you wanna add on to your questionnaire. Do you even have a questionnaire, right? So bottom line is, over the last 10 plus years, some people see 7-figure digital product business as a psychologist. Some people see, man, she's building mental health business programs with agencies, and I'm being written into their funding source so that I don't necessarily have to build my own private practice anymore, even though I've been doing it for years, right? So, because I don't desire to do a lot of one-on-one right now, right? So people see that, but they become allergic to the execution part. They become allergic to building the systems, but then they say they want time. They don't want to hire somebody because it's going to take too long to train, but then they say they want time back. And I'm just like, you're telling me everything you want on your vision board, but you're not even willing to go to the computer to print out the picture and put it on your vision board, because that's too much damn work, right? You don't want to do any of the steps to build a profitable business. And get this, there's nothing wrong with, because I've heard this multiple times every year when we enroll students in our like VIP private practice, like DTA, and then also mastermind for expansion, coaching business, etc., is we see this a lot when we look in the back office, our back office. We see that somebody has been on our list for 4 to 5 years. We've seen that someone has been to 5 boot camps before they join DTA finally. We have seen where somebody will come to a live event before they even join our coaching program because maybe it was lower in cost and they just wanted to not pay as much. Then we also hear the same on the flip side, where some of these same people will then say, dang, I wish I just would have joined that before I did this, because I kind of did it backward. And some of them have been fully transparent and said because it was easier to get. And I get that. And sometimes you do want to test drive a car, and then sometimes that's all you got. So you just want to get a piece of the pie, which is fine, right? So don't beat up on yourself if you are going just, I'm going to say, slower than someone else's pace. But what I am saying in terms of the coaching industry is that we are living in a time where buyers are living in a state of scarcity, lack, and fear. And it can be from what I've heard actually a lot this year is that people have been burned. 2 individuals have told me during this round of mastermind interviews that they had just made an investment right before they found me. And it was just so unfortunate for me to hear them say that, because I mean, they can't get a refund because I don't give refunds, but it's just like, dang, that sucks, because I may be giving them the access level that they want, even in DTA. Like, some people join private practice programs and they don't have no access, right? So it's just like I feel bad, but then I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to use this as a learning lesson for therapists. Like, you saw my stuff 2 years ago, you waited, and then some people will join somebody else's stuff because it's cheaper. And I'm here to tell you from like a luxury brand perspective, all, like how they say with a job, all money ain't good money. All cheap stuff ain't gonna last forever. You can buy the little $10 pair of jeggings, you know what I'm saying, on Amazon. But within 4 months, you're gonna have to buy some more. 4 months, you're gonna have to buy some more. And you ain't gaining weight. You just gotta buy some more. The thread's coming out. The button broke. You know what I'm saying? But then one day, you're gonna wake up and say, well, gosh, if I just buy a pair of jeans that cost $115, that low-key add up to the last 18 months that I've been just buying jeans over and over again. And I'd rather have 5 pair of quality jeans that I can wash and just mix up next week with different tops. Or I could just keep buying this cheap stuff, only getting 5% of the pie. It doesn't make sense, right? So is building a coaching business fun? I do believe it is, because I like to put together puzzles. Is it hard? Any business is hard. It's just not 2024 at the time of this recording. It's just not inflation. Business is hard. The real question I have for you is, are you willing to stay the course with what you said that you wanted? That's the question. Because again, everybody don't have the same relentless mindset I know as myself. And this is confidence. It ain't cockiness. And everybody who knows me knows that, right? Like, I just know what I'm good at. And at the end of the day, I don't have to walk around saying it either. That's a belief of mine too. Like, I don't, some people do, like, I'm the number one, da, da, da. Like, I say I'm the number one therapist, business coach, because I am, right? But that ain't the first sentence that come out of my mouth when I introduce myself. I'm like, hey, I'm TK. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am a person, but I'm an expert at what I do. And I'm not afraid to share that. And sometimes I don't even realize how much I know until I start talking and it's going over somebody else's head. And I'm just like, oh, shoot, I got to slow it down. You know, I got to bring it down. So the bottom line is, I go after what I want, though. And I do move fast. And I know some people don't move like that. They need to think it over like for 2 weeks. I may need to think some stuff over for 24 hours, depending on how big it is and how much energy it's going to take. But if I know that I've been looking for something like a car for a year, and I see the car that I want and that will get me to my next level, make me feel better, I'm rolling, I'm popping, it's getting me from destination A to B. You know what I'm saying? It don't matter what kind of car it is. If I want the car, I want the car, right? It could be a Nissan Stanza, it could be a Honda, it could be a Range Rover, right? But bottom line is, if I want the car and I see it and I have the capacity to get it, or if I know that I can be creative and find a way to get it, your girl gonna get it, okay? That's how I've been successful in my coaching business. Hard, yes. Is it possible? Hell yeah, right? So you can be a six-figure earner. You can be a multi-six-figure earner. You can, get bold and say you want to be a seven-figure or multi-seven-figure, hell, or eight-figure earner. Your degree does not determine how big your business grows. Your mindset does, and your execution does. So with that said, if you've enjoyed this car chit chat, you know what I'm saying? Go ahead and make sure that you're following the podcast. If you're watching here on YouTube, please subscribe and like this video. Let me know your biggest takeaway. If you're listening on the audio podcast, make sure that you follow the audio podcast. And if you want to see the video version, so you can probably see my facial expressions, because it's way more comical if you see the video, then go ahead and follow me on Dr. TK on YouTube, y'all. So I love y'all. I hope that you like these sometimes, right now at this point, a lot of times, informal car chit chats. But again, it feels like y'all sitting in the car with me, literally where my bag is and my laptop is. I am on my way to a nonprofit to deliver group leverage time mental health services. And also, depending on when you're watching this video, if you would like to apply for the last round of interviews for the Elite Coaching Therapist Mastermind for therapists who want to scale their business, scale their time, and live out their true desires without being buckled down to a desk doing all one-on-one therapy, then holla at your girl. Make sure you check those qualifications so you can make sure that you are not a newbie in mental health business, because that is not who this program is for. And so if you are ready to scale, make sure that you check the description box. If we are still hosting interviews, the application will be open. If we are not, there will be no availability. But we close out at the end of October. So if you don't see any more availability, either people hopped on it, you can also DM me on Instagram at Dr. TK Psych. And this is also how I can tell if you want it, because some people have outright hit me and said, hey, I checked the calendar and there's no availability. So I just went and added some more. The applications weren't closed. Guess what? That person is now in the mastermind. So, all right, y'all. See y'all later. Bye.